Hello and welcome to our weekly update and feeding of the European nightcrawler bins. These are the 3 experimental bins we have going with kitchen scraps, worm chow, and leaves. And let's go ahead and see how these guys did with our last feeding. Okay. We did have heavy rains. We had rains all night last night. They're expecting more rains today, maybe even through tomorrow. So I'm not surprised. European night crawlers do tend to explore. So not at all surprised that these guys were crawling. But I haven't lost any, not that I'm aware of. And this is where we fed. Let's see how they did with the food. Okay, so aside from the bedding, no food. Yeah. So even though we don't have a lot of worms in here, they still seem to be going through the food pretty efficiently. Lively. But they're looking good. They have plenty of space to spread out, so I'm really hoping that fairly soon we'll start seeing them packing on the size, the pounds. Wow, the pounds, the weight. So we're going to feed in this area now, as it appears to be a bit drier. And I have a little bit of bedding for them. I'll put in dry bedding since the food that's going in here is going to be plenty moist. And this is some rotten grapes and watermelon. And I already put some coffee grounds and eggshell on top, so we don't need to add that in. And this is about, I would say, 5 ounces. So it's not really a lot of food, seeing that I don't have a lot of worms in here. Oops. Hello. Not enough coffee. Okay. So these guys are all fed up. And the bin is looking good, and the worms are looking good. Although I'm not seeing huge growth in their size, well, maybe that'll come at a later time. So this is our homemade worm chow bin, and I think these guys are gonna need a new newspaper. Looks like they've read all there is to read with this one. So we'll have to give them a new one. But the bin is looking good as well. I have been adding water to it with the feeding. And the moisture seems to be perfect in here. But the worms actually, I think these guys are looking a bit bigger than the ones in the kitchen scrap. What do you guys think? Maybe just a bit chunkier? Is it possible? They do seem a bit bigger. I don't think it's my imagination. Now this particular food, I do feed them about every 2 days because they seem to go through the worm chow faster, of course, than the leaves and the kitchen scraps. So I do come in here and I sprinkle on a bit extra. And they seem to like it. When feeding this, you really need to be careful because you don't want to overfeed. You don't want the bin to heat up. A lot of, especially if you're feeding a lot of grain materials like rice and pasta and flour, things like that. Let's see. I think this is a good one. So we'll give them a new paper to read. I'll wet it down just a little bit. Gotta keep everything nice and moist in here since there's no kitchen scraps going in here. So there's no added moisture. And then this one is done as well. So now let us go and take a look at the final bin. My lamp here, which is the leaves. Let's see. Okay. Seems to be moist. The paper is still intact, so we will keep it. And let's see what these guys look like. Now I do think that having new bedding in all 3 bins really does stimulate the growth of these guys. These guys are also big. Look at that. Ooh! Oh, sorry. I thought I just found a big worm. What I found was them getting busy. Oh, did I interrupt? I'm sorry. These guys are just getting busy. I got all excited there. I thought I found a really big night crawler finally. But they are actually very nice in size here as well. So right now, I would say that the leaves and the homemade worm chow are in the lead. What do you think? So what I'm going to do now is give these guys some more leaves. Now this is the bucket that I keep it in. You can see how dark and moldy the leaves are. Don't give them fresh leaves. No, I don't. I give them nice, moldy, wet, well, mostly moist leaves. But then I will add water as I add the leaves because, again, there is no other source of moisture going into this bin, and you have to take that into consideration if you're going to feed your worms leaves, or mostly leaves, as I'm doing actually in my outdoor hungry bin. It's mostly leaves and coconut coir and straw and things like that, high carbon material. And I always have to add water because there's just not enough moisture in that in the bin to get the material properly broken down. Okay, so we're done with this one as well. And I'm thinking that it's going good. They're all healthy looking and the bins look healthy. And we'll see, maybe we'll have a little addition to our regular kitchen scraps and coffee grounds and eggshell and so forth. And we'll be adding either worm chow or leaves, or maybe a little bit of both. We'll find out. Thanks for joining me, and see you next week.